she's talking about me?
She's absolutely talking about you. Dude, that's a good thing.
No, it's not.
George, you get a clue. Syphilis is the best thing that ever happened to you. In their eyes, you're a player.
Hey, Sif boy.
You told her?
Just Christina.
Sif boy. It's got a nice ring to it. Kind of like Superboy, only diseased.
Hey guys, I'm Ishan and my topic for today is TREPONEMA. So TREPONEMA belongs to the phylum Spirochete, which also contains Borrelia and Leptospira. It is a genus which contains species like Treponema pallidum and other non-venereal species like Treponema endemicum causing endemic syphilis, Treponema pertinue causing yaws, and Treponema caratium causing penta. So now, as you can see in this video, you can see spirochetes, which are thin and spiral organisms, which are also flexible, elongated, helical, and having tapering ends. So you can consider spirochete as a strand of curly hair. In this video, you can also see some features like the motility of these organisms. They have a corkscrew motility, they have flexion and extension, and a slight bend at 90 degrees.
So now let's focus in on Treponema pallidum, which is the cause of syphilis. So syphilis can occur either by sexual contact, or it can mainly occur through blood transfusions or vertical transmission from the mother to the fetus. So how does syphilis occur? It mainly this bacteria normally comes through the abrasions present in the skin and the mucosa. Syphilis has an incubation period of 10 to 90 days. This disease is called the Great Pretender. Why? Because its clinical manifestations mimic other diseases also present in the same category. So syphilis is normally divided into 4 stages. First is the primary stage. The primary stage is characterized by regional lymphadenopathy along with a presence of a primary chancre. The primary chancre is an indurated, painless ulcer which is normally present in the labia in females and on the penis in males. So now let's move on to the secondary stage. The secondary stage is characterized by generalized lymphadenopathy. There's also a presence of skin rashes on the palms and the soles. There's also condylomata lata, which is grey to pink lesions present in the moist areas such as the perianal region and the scrotum. There's also a presence of mucus patches. Let's move on to the next stage. The next stage is the latent stage. The latent stage is basically characterized by no presence of symptoms, but the bacteria are still present, so they're transmissible. From the latent stage, it can either go to 3 things. Number 1 is it can go to the tertiary stage. Number 2 is that there can be spontaneous cure. And number 3 is that you can have a lifelong infection. Let's move on to the next and the final stage. This is the tertiary stage. 15% of people in the tertiary stage have gamma lesions and 10% have neurosyphilis and CVS symptoms each. Gamma lesions are basically destructive granulomatous lesions which can be present in any organ but mainly are present in the skin and the bones. The next is neurosyphilis. Neurosyphilis is characterized by the presence of vasculitis, meningitis, and a disease known as Caves dorsalis. The next is CVS symptoms. CVS symptoms include syphilitic aneurysms on the aorta and also aortic regurgitation. If there's a presence of vertical transmission, then there can also be congenital syphilis, which means that the neonate has syphilis, and it is characterized by saber shins, by saddle-like nose, deafness, and Hutchinson's teeth.
So now, after learning about syphilis and its stages, let's move on to the lab diagnosis. So the first point is by microscopy, which can be used with the help of a dark ground or a phase contrast microscope, in which we can see thin and flexible bacilli. We can also see the motility, like the corkscrew motility of the flexion or extension type of motility. The second point is DFA-ATP, that is direct fluorescence antibody Treponema pallidum. In this case, we use fluorescent monoclonal antibodies to detect apple green colonies of the bacilli. The third point is silver impregnation test, in which active silver nitrate is converted into silver by the Treponema bacilli and it is deposited on the surface. Now let's move on to culture. As spirochetes cannot be grown in artificial culture media, we use rabbit testes, also known as Nichols strain. The third point is serology, which is divided into non-treponemal testing and treponemal testing. In non-treponemal testing, we detect non-specific antibodies by reacting with them with cardiolipin antigen, which is derived from bovine heart. In non-treponemal testing, we have two important types, that is VDRL or Venereal Disease Research Laboratory, and RPR, that is Rapid Plasma Reagent. Now let's consider VDRL. In this case, we can use VDRL to detect CSF antibodies, and by this we can detect neurosyphilis. For RPR, it is comparatively expensive than VDRL and it is used for individual testing, whereas VDRL can be used as batch testing. Now VDRL is also used to monitor treatment response. So this is an important point for this case.
Okay, so now moving on to treponemal tests. Treponemal tests use the principle of detecting specific antibodies present in the human serum using the Treponema pallidum antigen. This antigen can either be live or it could be killed as well. So the first test that we're going to talk about is TPI, which is Treponema pallidum immobilization test. This uses an active motile Treponema pallidum and it gets immobilized once coming into contact with the antibody. The next test is the FTABS, which is the fluorescent Treponema pallidum antibody absorption test. This is one of the main tests. In this, the human sera is coated on a plate which previously contains the killed Treponema pallidum antigen. And after that, fluorescent anti-human immunoglobulin is used and we can detect the antibodies by fluorescent microscopy. The next one is TPPA and TBHA. These both tests are used by the Treponema pallidum extract. Moving on, we have molecular methods. The molecular method used is PCR. This concludes our lab diagnosis.
Yo, ring her up, dude.
You cannot smoke in here, please. The sign is clearly posted, sir.
Oh, God, you smokers disgust me. Hey, Pooh, you got a breakfast cereal for people with syphilis?
As you saw, the Simpsons used breakfast cereal as their treatment for syphilis, but we use a single dose of penicillin. But if the patient has penicillin allergy, then we may revert to tetracyclines. And with this, we sign out. Thank you.